I tried pot when I was 10 and a half or 11. I have to take credit for everything I did because I did it, but, it wasn't all my fault. I mean, the fact is that my best friend, we were the same age, but he had an older brother. So when we were like 10 or 11, his older brother was like 16, 17, troublemaker, teenager age. And he thought it was funny with all his buddies to, get the two little kids stoned and drunk and watch them, walk around, stumble around drunk. So, and we didn't mind because we're like, yeah, this feels good. We're good. We're hanging out. So, that's kind of why I got in a lot of trouble, growing up. And in fact, I remember all throughout my teen years, most of who I hung out with were older biker dudes. They were in their like 30s and stuff. And so, I got into a lot more adult trouble as a young preteen and teen. I think I did coke the first time at 13 years old, which I ended up liking a lot for some reason. Because, by the way, if you've never done it, you don't need it. Drink a pot of coffee or something if you want to be wired. It just makes you talk a lot and your jaws go crazy. Not that I would know, because this is fiction, of course, I think I got my first cell phone, I was about 13 or maybe just going on 14 years old. It was one of those, they call it a brick phone. It was really big, like the size of a brick. And it was about $5,000, pretty expensive. Before that, I just had, and by the way, it didn't do anything. All you could do was just call on it. It wasn't like a smartphone like we have these days. But before that, I had a pager. But it wasn't like we know pagers, you can type numbers in. It was just a beeper. Actually, that's what they call it, a beeper. And so only one person can have the number. And if they called, you knew you could call them back. So I would have to have somebody man the house phone and then beep me, and then I could call and say, hey, what's up? And then they'd say, well, so-and-so called, he needs this or that or whatever. And then I could, go and take care of that. So that was kind of a pain. So I was really happy when I got that phone. And then my second one was about half, I was so happy, it's half the size. I think it was $3,500, but it was like half the size. But it's still big, just as long, just not as thick and not as heavy. So by the time I was 15, I had bought 3 Harleys, brand new at the dealership. Did I mention I didn't just do coke? And the funny thing was I didn't even have my driver's license. And I went into the dealership, had paid with cash, and they asked me for my license, and I was like, oh, darn, I forgot it at the house. And they're like, well, you can just bring it in, sometime, whenever. And then like a week or two later in the mail, I got my license plates. They were registered, in my name, and I put them on the bike and drove away. My first bike actually was a raked out Harley Sportster 1100. Raked out means it's a chopper, in case you don't know. And it had the big suicide bars, so you drive like this, and not a good bike to learn on at all, by the way. Very hard bike to ride. But of course, once I learned on that, I could ride pretty much anything. That was my first bike. That wasn't new. I bought that used from a place called House of Choppers. I was in Beverly. I had been driving since I was probably about 13 and a half or so. I just took my mom's car, and, what I would do is I would just put it in neutral and back it out. We had one of those driveways that went all the way through in between the houses to the garage in the back. So it was kind of tough because if you put on the brakes, it would light up the driveway and, it could wake her up. She'd see the red light through her, window. So it was a little tough, but after she would go to bed, I would take the car out. I would just back it out and, get into trouble. She had reason not to trust me. So one time I was going on a trip to Indiana with a bunch of my biker buddies. There was probably about 30 of us, and we're all on bikes. And I had this nice, I think it was a 1985 Harley Davidson Soft Tail Custom. And man, was it a sweet ride. It was nice. So we went out there, and I'm not gonna lie, we went out there to get pot. And we got a couple of pounds, but they put majority of it on my bike. There was a little like, if you lift up the seat, there's like a glove box or storage compartment in there. So we put it in there because I was like the youngest one. So they knew if we got busted, I'm not going to go to jail. They might go to jail, but I was underage. So I'm like, okay, that makes sense to me. So I got all the pot on my bike, or most of it, whatever could fit in there. Didn't all fit in there, but whatever fit in there, we put in there. So we're driving down on I-80, and we're just about to cross back into Illinois. And we get pulled over by like an Indiana state trooper or something. It's 30 guys on bikes driving down the street. It draws a bit of a crowd and a bit of attention. It's a big crowd of bikes. So they pull us over just to roust us probably, check for IDs and stuff like that. Well, here's me. I got no ID. I got no, driver's license. So, they arrested me, and they were going to impound the bike. And we were like, oh no, I'm going to get busted. Somehow or another, one of the guys, just talked the cop into letting him ride my bike. So it didn't get impounded, but I went to jail. And because it was Indiana, they don't have, like here in Chicago, if you get busted on Friday night, you can get arraigned Saturday morning. They got judges that work on the weekends and stuff. Well, they don't have that in Indiana. So I had to spend the whole weekend in jail. I didn't get out until that Monday when they could arraign me. And then when I went to court on it, my sentence was, I got sentenced to a few things, but the main part that hurt real bad was I couldn't get my driver's license until I was 18 because of that. And boy, did that suck, because everybody was getting their license like, around 16 years old, and or at least a permit or something. And I couldn't. So all the other, people in high school had cars and stuff, and I couldn't get one. I couldn't get one until I was 18. When I was 18, I got a 1982 Ford Mustang. But anyway, that was the Indiana motorcycle pot story. What else can I tell you? Well, I've been stabbed once and shot twice. Well, guys, if you're still watching, you must have liked the video. And if you did, give it a like. Now, if you want to see more like this, subscribe and click the bell. If you got some extra time on your hands, why not watch another one? You can choose one from the Stories of My Life playlist, which will appear here after I disappear. Or you could watch the next one in the series, which will also appear here. See you in the next one.